Hello and welcome. We are going to be playing City Skylines, but first, let us do stuff. Alright, so we want to go to Discover Turns and Round 8 Team 2, uploaded by Dexter, and we will download that. Alright. And while that is downloading, then we will go to our downloads. Maybe date, there we go. And we'll cut that, and we're going to go to our saves and paste that. There we go. And then we're going to open up Cities Skylines. There's an echo in my mic, really. Interesting. I wonder why. I wonder if the mic on this thing, is that better? Hello again, by the way. Here, let me show you real quick. See it in the corner there? Is that cool? Weird echo. Is the echo gone now? Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Do you hear me with an echo? Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Do you hear me with an echo? Well, shit. Not sure why it's echoing. La la la. La 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 la. Yeah, well, I don't know that there's much I can do about it, buddy. Hopefully it doesn't persist. Did you hear an echo earlier in the other stream that you were in? That might help too, I don't know. Okay, so I mean, I've literally changed nothing. I turned that one off. I put my thing over my shoulder there, and then I turned it back on. I don't know what happened. But okay. Oops, one. So there's a way to put my chat in the live stream, and I'll figure it out eventually, but I haven't figured it out yet, so we're still just going to have to deal without it. And that's okay. I'm glad it's better. Good. So let's see what's been going on Discover. I haven't looked at it since I started my first Lego stream, and I turned it off so I wouldn't hear it. Okay. Well, it's a self-promotion thing. Okay, yeah. Nobody cares. Alright. Discover General. Team 2 has been uploaded. Thank you. Peter's Animal World. New Harbor area has grown up and is looking great. Ooh, well, I can't wait to look at that. Alright. Chris is streaming one of our favorite things right now. Oh, talking about my Lego thing, I assume. Yeah, neener. I got money to spend. We should start thinking about our next area. Okay, that's... Oh my god. Your team is so communicative now. I'm very pleased that your team 2 has been working so well together. Congratulations on getting some decent teammates. Not to say that other teammates weren't decent before, but you could have gotten some teammates that just didn't do anything. I know that's happened before. Dex and Peter and what is it, in something sense, incomprehensible sense. That's not right. What is it? Irrational sense. That's the word. Irrational sense. All three of them. They're really great. I'm not gonna read through all that though. All right. Oh, has Peter dropped off? I haven't realized that. Seemed like he was maybe new to the game a little bit, and so this might have been a bit overwhelming. Or he might not have had the DLC since he couldn't build. He was like, yeah, no thanks. Wow. That is a lot of city right there. 80,000 people. Billy Button Bend has grown. So let's say, okay, we got 2 new islands. I saw this earlier. Just for the heck and giggles of it. Okay, let me do some housekeeping checking. Okay, does not mess with our thing. Fantastic. Good to know. And I know he said he checked, and I believe him, but we gotta check on you guys. I give you an inch, I'll take 3 miles. I'm telling you. We got a roundabout. Man, I have not seen a roundabout that type before. That is a pretty slick roundabout right there, I gotta say. And I'm not, and as Painted Heptagon will tell you, they're not my favorite, but that's pretty slick right there. You continuing with the extensive tramway. That's pretty freaking, or pretty stinking neat, I gotta say, actually. I love this. Oh, look at that. Okay, Dex is freaking cool, man. That is stinking sweet. Oh, and Pimmeridge Farms. Remembering all of my misdeeds. What is this? Oh, that's a high school? Oh, that must be from the new... See, I have not played outside of Discouver, so this has got to be from the new campus's DLC. Is that correct? I mean, that's a big high school. Let's see here. Education. Yeah, it's just plain old high school. Interesting. Cool stuff, though. Okay, and then you got your farms here. Liking it. I'm liking this look here. Are these warehouses? Slaughterhouse, okay. There's a warehouse. Cool beans. You got your nuclear power plant there, and I like how Peter's highway or spur is kind of expanded out into a thing there, for lack of a better term. Oh, look, we've also changed how we go through here. Look at that. Nice and clean. And then we got our spaghettification. Not to be confused with a black hole, which spaghettification is an actual technical term. And I'm not making that up, and that's not even a joke. As you get closer and closer to a black hole, to the singularity of the black hole, if there is one that exists, your body stretches out. And the gravity is so much greater at your toes than they are at your head, assuming you're going feet first, that you will eventually start to literally stretch out and spaghettify. And not the best way to go. I don't know, but it's just my guess. So things are moving along smoothly here. I was worried about these two on-ramps being right next to each other, that was going to cause turmoil within the highway here. But it seems like it's doing okay. Okay, let's see what we got to say here. So dilation effects. So yeah, we're going to be talking about science instead of city skylines for a second, but I'm okay with that because I love talking about this stuff. So there is both spatial and time dilation, because space-time is really one single thing. So there's, as a black hole or even a neutron star or even the sun or the earth for that matter, as they spin, they do what's called frame dragging. And so literally, if you think about, look at my, here, I got a good demonstration here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so as I twist on my shirt is dragging around. And that's around, I'm putting a torque on it, but basically what's going on is when the Earth spins, it does something similar, except in 3 dimensions, not just the 2 of my shirt. And that's called frame dragging, so space is literally twisted like that. And you also, time dilates. The larger the gravity well, really the closer you are to a large mass, the more bent space-time is, the more that time flows towards that mass, and therefore it moves slower. Time moves slower for you. So a great example of that and a real-world application of that is GPS satellites. They have little clocks on them, the GPS satellites do, and they're very accurate because they are based on atomic time, and they are synced with atomic clocks that are here on Earth. And they have to do that these days every few minutes, if not sooner. And I don't know how often it is, and it probably depends on the GPS satellite and who's operating it and all that stuff. But if they didn't do that, time would start to become unsynced or desynced, or what would be the word? It would be out of sync because time moves slower for that GPS satellite further away from Earth than it is for us here on the surface of the Earth. And because time moves slower, the clock on there changes, and so that affects how it triangulates, because it has to measure the amount of time it takes for a signal to get from one place versus another, and that's how it triangulates. And so if your timing is off, then you lose accuracy, and after a day's worth of time, you lose about 10 to 11 meters of accuracy. After 2 days, it's ridiculous, and any more than that, and it's completely useless. So, dilation, yes. And that's JDP's on his way home. If you're still listening, JDP, do again drive safe, and I'll see you when you get home, I'm sure. And then there's also the same types of effects happen when you're moving fast. So it's not just about large gravity, but it also is about high speed. Because the faster you move, the slower time gets, and space starts to bend as well. And that's because and I say that for the person that's going that fast, time seems to be moving regularly, but it moves slower relative to somebody who is standing still relative to the object that's moving very fast, which is why everything is called relativity. Makes me wonder how we managed to get GPS into space back in the 80s and such, when the technology to recalibrate would have been more difficult. Well, when they first put them up, they had this problem. They didn't understand why, and it took somebody that knew enough about general relativity to figure it out. And in the 80s, GPS was not nearly as accurate as it is today, because the clocks were not as accurate. And so as the clocks have become more accurate over the last 40 years, or 30, 40 years, however many it is, then the GPS satellites have been able to become more accurate as well. So, yeah. Okay, back to city skylines. Okay, so I'm really digging this. So one piece of advice that I would have for Dex, 13 Dex. I want to call him Z Dex because the XII I read as Z and not as 13, but I get it. So we want to move this closer like this so that we can try and minimize the turn. And we might even turn that a little bit. Like that. And then watch this. Once we They haven't convinced me yet. Okay. So there's this. And then watch that. Watch this arrow right here. It ought to change. And it does. And so having it be straight going on is going to be better now. I did do it too much because now we have that little kink. So let's fix that. There we go. And it's still going to be a lot better. And see, he did it there, and so it looks great, and it's going to work a lot better. Not that it really matters, but it's a little detail that I like to see. At least interfacing with my highway. Y'all do whatever y'all want. So speaking of which, we want to go over here and make sure that the same is true over here. So like I have a turn lane here, and I have a turn lane there. And let's watch. This guy, they gotta go slower, or y'all have already slowed my speed limits down, which I don't like. The speed limits should stay the same. This is an on and off ramp this situation. This is not an intersection situation. There we go. I like the slip lane here. Janky. I call it derpy. That's my word. Derpy. I stole that from somebody somewhere along the way. Well, don't be like that. Okay. But hey, it's better than 3 weeks ago. Yeah, no, it is. Hey, I'm being nitpicky. Let's be clear. This is nitpicking, and in the end, whatever's. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't even sweat it. I'm gonna stick that right up underneath that road there. That needs to go down, I think, a little bit. Oh, no, it can't. Okay. Okay. Let's see. There we go. There we go. That looks fantastic, by the way. Good job on that. Really good job on that. I think the only thing that we want to work on here is our grading here a little bit. You got a little bit of a dip there. I wouldn't want to have to go over it. So the way the game works, this is not necessarily real life, is you always got to, the two that come right off of it, always got to be at the same height as the intersection. It just has to be that way to look right, for better and for worse. And we're going to Alt and drag, and that's how I got it to be a little bit more smooth. And it just automatically smooths out that curve for you too, that the grading. So this looks like it, yeah, it's nice and straight. So we just want to lift that up a little bit. There we go. Take that kink out. And then you're good to go. You got it. Uh-oh. See if I can grab this. Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, got it. Bingo. Okay. That alt drag, man, that'll save your life on these curves, I'm telling you. Okay. Get that a little bit less. Not that much less. There we go. Perfect. All right, let's see how that works out. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. And I wonder if that one's still that way. So we can kink this like that. Got them all straight now. But that was really some minor little kinks, and it would have worked just fine without me doing it. I'll tell you that much. So this is all looking good. Alright, let's take a look at Peter's animal world. Oh, there we go. It's a really nice looking zoo. Like how you got all the desert over here, and then you got it all much more green over here and there. Color me impressed. This is kind of neat too, how you got a little bit wavy. And look, you got people walking along here. Oh, wait, are they? They're somehow coming up and down on this, so that's something that might need to be fixed a little bit. Kind of interesting. You see that? Okay. But it's definitely being used. I like that. Okay. Yeah, that looks a lot different than it did 4 turns ago, doesn't it, buddy? Let's take a look. What have we done over here? So we just completely removed the tram from this over here and just elevated it. Looks like we got some problems over here, though. Not sure what that's about. That's really strange. It's like this line isn't complete or something. So this blue line looks like it's messed up. So you want me to try and fix it for you? I'll pause the game, make this go a little bit quicker. Okay, so I know it stops here. It's right here, right? Yeah, right there. And then where's our next stop? Probably like right here. Then we got right here. Do we have one like right here maybe? And don't we get on this loop here? Oops. Does that all look right? Okay. It's now the green line, not the teal line. Got this over here. Cool deal. The riding stable. Some nice little overlooks there. What's this? Sauna. Good deal. Let's look at their town. Oh, look at this. This is pretty cool too. It's kind of neat how he does the pathways underneath. I've never really done that before. I've always gone over and much simpler and uglier. It's a nice, simple little plan, though. Very nice, quaint little town here. Lots of people walking. Look at this. That's ripe for maybe a bus line. You still haven't done anything with the EXO. it won't die. I wonder what that's all about, too. It looks like y'all got some plans going on there for future. This elevated tram network is quite impressive. You got to really give Z props. Dex, I should say. Gotcha. How's our 1,069 passengers? But we're definitely bringing it in. There's barely any traffic. I'm kind of surprised by that. I guess most people are coming. Excuse me. Most people are coming in on the metro. This is looking quite nice, I think. Uh-oh. What'd I do? Whoopsies. I like how people are parking all the way down here and then walking right back up the hill. Maybe we should give them like a little path here. Or something. Or like right up here to get up there or something. I had to lower the street to make the park connection. What are you talking about? Are you talking about right here? Which is fine. Like, I put the bridge in to make it clear that I think we need to have a bridge there. So my mandate, so to speak, is that there's a bridge. But this is your area and their area, so the areas overlap, and y'all can kind of do with this bridge as y'all will. Y'all can change it, what have you, as long as y'all work together on it. No one team can do it, and I can facilitate that if the teams want, but I'm not going to do anything to these moving forward without express request from the teams. So this will be your area next, and I got you all the way to here. And you can upgrade this in your little easement there if once you've connected it needs to. I wouldn't do it beyond the 2-lane 2-way at the moment, though. Probably ever. Looks like this is getting a lot of good traffic here. This inside your area, it's solidly inside your area, so you can make an over and underpass if you desire. Looks like that might start to become a smart idea. I still see Vader there. He's still there. He's just a little bit beat up. Okay, what did team... So that was round 7. Oh, they filled in their hole. That's what she said. Or he, depending on who you are. So you got the Scopely Amusement Park. Man, look at that. Look at all that ridiculous detail. Somebody spent... Oh my gosh. My stuff never looks this good. Holy frijoles. Look at that. I'm impressed. Color me impressed, guys. Wow. Wow. Look at all that. That's so cool. And what a great little square there. No, where the L tram circle is, no, to the right. Oh, I didn't fix that. Okay. So we're back over here. Sorry. So I guess you had to lower this down. Looks like it. And look at this. Y'all got some pretty cool stuff going on here, too. I didn't notice this before. And this is a really nice looking area, I gotta say, too. But props also to Team 1, because wow. That's impressive. So I would have thought that you would have taken the avenue and gone over here and continued it on. But it's kind of neat that you have a nice little S-turn here. And these are getting used, so that's good. And this is a really busy street because I don't think they have a way to get to here on the freeway. There's no good way for them to get on. Is there? I wonder if they stuck an on-ramp like from to here, right here or something. But you'd get so much traffic turning left there to do so, but you're getting it here. So if you get the traffic here, you might as well do it here and get them on the freeway. So they're taking this avenue down to here. Hello, welcome back, JDP. I mean, it's flowing, so I can't say anything. They got it working. They do. And they got those trucks just pouring in. Speaking of which, how's yours doing? So you are doing a lot more importing than them. They are doing more exporting. Look at that bridge. That's pretty cool. This is going under and in and through the spaghetti. This is what spaghetti looks like from ground level. Oh, and we're getting on the freeway, buddy. Okay, this is, I gotta say, this is pretty nice. I'll look at the profit for the zoo and the farm in a little bit. I'm having fun. Got it. That was so satisfying to go over that bridge. I can't tell you how much. Uh-oh. We got traffic backing up. Yeah, see, we're going to have to take that stop off. I knew that was going to be trouble. Well, the stop has been taken off. You might need to put in a light. Or at least a yield. I'm just going to put it yield for now. And Team 1 can manage that. And XO, could you take a screenshot of this for me? Or Jack, somebody. Thank you, buddy. All right. Let's see if that helps it out. You know what the slowdown is? If they're having it stop anyway for this right turn, I guess. So, we're gonna work on this a little bit. Okay. I'll make sure it's touching the ground here. Okay. This may go straight or turn left. This may turn right. Let's see how that works. That solves that problem. Now let's go back here and eliminate that, because that's just causing problems there. I mean, that just took that problem clear out. Problem was there that turn was too sharp. That's really what was going on there. You know, perhaps. I'll leave that to them, though. That's they got two of them actually right here. Wow. All right. But I'm satisfied that that's better now. You don't have to, that screenshot I had you take earlier, you can just lose it, because it is now obsolete, irrelevant. How's this thing doing that I put in last time? It looks like it's doing fine. So they haven't done anything over here, so really hasn't been stressed beyond what it already was doing. Paint it. Let me know that if you want me to delete the screen grabs. Hey, Painted Heptagon, what's going on, buddy? Welcome to the show. EXO, don't worry about that screen grab, because this has changed since you got that screen grab, and now Painted can see it for himself too. Okay, so yeah, I'm just checking traffic flow. Painted earlier, I was gonna say the detailing in this area I was really impressed with. I really like it a lot. Excuse me, I really like it a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need to work on this, don't we? That's just not gonna cut it. Okay. Can you show our new area for round 9 so I don't have to start the game? Yeah. Let me finish this intersection. I'll get to that. Before I do all that, let's you know, I did not look at all the names of the amusement park buildings. I'll be honest, I did not look that closely. Oh no! It's out of the city limit. I'll go do that too as well. So I guess that is my limit. Okay. Okay. I think that shall work nicely. Okay. So, let's take a look here. Czardus carousel. Bumper cars. Ferris wheel. Darth Yoda's drop tower. Dash coaster. Ha ha ha. I like it. Alliteration. Tsunami's trampoline park. Hippos. House of Horrors. Poesia's pendulum ride. Swifty Spider's swinging boat. You gotta. Or it's missing a couple letters there. Well, there goes my. Oh, paint it. Painted heptagon. I'm not. Oh, Jesus. How much work? Oh, God. I forgot to do that again. I know what to do. I just. It hasn't even. It didn't. Oh, God. Oh, God. I'm so sorry. Okay. So I've done some work here. What did I did a little work there. I did a little work over there. What else have I really done? Scott, help me out. Have I done any other? And then I did the loop. I did the tram loop. I think that's really all I've done, and most of the rest of it was just me gawking at stuff. Okay. I'm not gonna save this game. I'm just gonna quit the main menu. I'll go back and I'll just redo that. I did help fix some intersections. Okay. Let me go. I guess I gotta go to Discord. Oh, yeah. Now it's too late now. Too late now. Okay. Okay. Let's see, did this paint 13 decks, painted heptagon, exo hunter, and 3 others reacted with thumbs up. So I guess we could start using Electric's road tools. Okay. Let's add it to the rules. Okay. Oh. Okay, I am now subscribed to the Discouver flag by Sven Berlin. Thank you very much, Sven Berlin, for doing the flag. Did you have to pay him to do it, or did he do it just for the heck of it? No, the penalty was I just lost all the work I just did. That is my penalty. My turn isn't over if I had just left it like last time. Now, I will take a penalty for not having it last time, but you guys got to tell me what the penalty is. Obviously, I shouldn't figure out my own penalty. I'm completely okay with taking an appropriate penalty. Okay, I think that's all good. That's pretty cool, man. You got to give that guy some props on Czardus's next on his next video. He needs to make sure to give that guy some props for doing that, because that's pretty cool of him to make that flag for us. I mean, I don't know how much work it really took, but even if it took very little work, it's still pretty cool that he did it. Okay. I do have an autosave. I wonder if I go back and load the autosave, will the flags just show back up and nobody has to worry about it, or are they pretty much screwed? No, they won't show back up, or no, they're not screwed. Oh yeah, I needed that. So I guess downtown by your central metro hub, or not metro, but just your central transport hub, is where all the flags are supposed to be. Yes. Painted hit the gun. The flags just aren't there, are they? Son bitch. Okay. How many flags did you lose, dude? How much time would it take you to redo the flags, or for me to redo the flags versus me redoing all the work that I did? Because all that's not there. That's not there. But that's done. And that's fixed. So, how much? Okay, man. Well, you tell me. It's getting to be less flags every time. Well, look, the amount of work that I would lose, I've already lost some work. The amount of work that I would lose would be on the order of about, I'd say, 15 to 20 minutes of work. So you tell me who would be worse off there. And I'm happy to put flags in here so that I go ahead and just fix it. Okay. Five minutes to build, 40 minutes chatting with your mayor about the flags. All right, bro. I'll leave it be. Painted. I am truly sorry about that. That was just me not paying close enough attention. So I apologize. Because earlier, not this time, but when I first fixed this, because this turn was so tight, they were backing up onto this road here, so it was causing some problem. So I went ahead and I just added that little slip lane. I think that fixes that problem nicely. And then I'll refix this. It's kind of like deja vu over here, huh? Oops. Okie dokie. I got that done in like record time. I gotta say, I popped that one out. You're right. All right. So that we're back to where we are. Now you had asked me to go look at something else. I looked at the amusement park, but there was something else that you had wanted me to look at. Your derpy intersection. That's already fixed, buddy. That's done. The new district. So team round 9. I haven't painted the round 11 districts yet. I haven't even thought about it, quite frankly. Jack Daniels, you still online? Oh, that's team 2's. You're looking for. There we go. Try and get them both in. There we go. So that's y'all's. Jack Daniels, do you have any directives, thoughts, suggestions, demands on where I put what? Karen told us Tramelano. Hey, Dex, what's going on, buddy? Or gal? Oh. But welcome. Okay, so for team 1, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this out a little bit. Okay. Snip the tip. Oy vey. You guys is. Tram usage 1,561. I think. Okay. There we go. Let me get back into this. Alright, so this is going to be Team 2, round 11. And Team 2, round 12. And then we got Team 1, round 11. Team 1, round 12. Well, there is, and the reason is it's the edge of the city. So I'm actually trying to avoid these hard straight lines like this, like you have here and like you had up here. So I put an irregular shape there to kind of get more of an organic feel to the edge of the city. That was the reasoning behind that. Tell you what, give that a little bump for you. Okay. And I think while we're at it, we're going to start to run out of space here, guys, so I think round 13 or 14 may be the end of Discouver. At least the end of expansion. It doesn't mean that we can't keep playing, but I don't know that there'll be many more districts after that. Team 2, round. Oh. Round 13. And Okay, so this I think is the final expansion round, 13. So you got round 9 for both of you guys, round 10, 11, and I count all of this expanded area as part of 11, even though it's really just to add it to round 2's there. And you got round 12 there. And you got round 13 there. Okay, and then you have round 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And I think that'll be that. We could, but I think the game is going to become so unbearably slow. And by then I can go for it, man. We can expand it some more. So that's a good looking city, though, I gotta say. Pimridge Farms. You want to see if it's making monies, huh? $3,900, bitches. Buy some cookies from them. That's funny. Oh, Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy on my soul, I'll tell you what. I know one thing. Whenever we do decide that it's the last round, the last Team 3 round, I'm going to definitely take a meteor. We'll do some meteor showers. We'll do some tsunami. We're gonna add natural disasters, and we're gonna have at it. My goal will be to kill at least 80% of the population. Oh yeah, we'll have fun. Uh-oh. You got some problems over here. Oh, sorry. Sorry for that. So, the next question is, what, if anything, needs to be done with public transportation here? You know what? Perhaps, but you clearly did not see my You go back into the archives on my YouTube page and look for Discordia for Reels, and you'll see that I've had my fair share of flooding. Bridge to a round 8 island. Yes. Which one? There's 2. There's 3 bridges. Which bridge would you like me to take a look at? Oh, it looks like we won a football game. Yeah, I didn't even bother with it. I just clicked and dragged and did it. So yeah, we can fix it. Oh, come on. Gonna play that stupid game with me today, okay. Okay. Anything else anybody wants me... The fence. What fence? In our downtown. Okay. Yes. You had mentioned... Where did you want me to put the fence? You wanted it to be right here, right? To get rid of that. Okay, so... Your fence has been served. I put it on both sides. I realized that you wanted it on that side, but I put it on both sides. Now, what I will do is I will alter this to be more like that. Nope, not what I wanted. There we go. Yeah, in my own personal games, I get the asset that looks like one of those concrete divider walls. I like using that asset a lot. It's basically just a fence, but it looks appropriate for the job. Well, there's your new zoning along your road here. So, all right. You now dual wield fence. All right. Anything else, guys? That I'm forgetting? So my plan here, to be clear, is I will build another. I don't know if it'll be this elaborate, but I'll build at least a simple on-off ramp there. Ferry in Team 2 Harbor. Ferry. Team 2 Ferry. Team 2 Ferry. Ferry Team 2. Oh, there's a ferry right here. Okay. So... do you want it to go down over to here? And I'm pretty sure you could do that on your own. That part. So at least we kind of got a bit of a loop now. You know what I'm going to try and do? Water required. Oh, that bridge isn't big enough. It's not big enough. It's not tall enough. That can be fixed easily enough, though. It might be best for the ferry to alternate sides anyway, rather than just going up each side, since we have other public transport to cover, just sticking to our own sides already. May need to reduce the number of ferries now that there's 2 lines. Might get a bit silly. Oh, you know what? I'll do this. I will delete that. And, if we want, and I can see this making some sense. What we can do is do something along these lines, I guess. Yeah, this might just need to be pulled up just a bit. It's not gonna work. Pain in the butt. I don't know if that was tall enough. Then it may be tall enough. We'll have to wait till a boat goes under. Oh no! Almost got clipped by that cruise ship, man. You gotta watch out for those cruise ships. My one almost took my father's yacht out. He's told me the other day. He's sailing down in the Bahamas right now. There's a lot of tower drops, man, in this city. There's got to be like 3 or 4. Put a cable car between the 2 sides, huh? Plenty of people getting on this ferry there. was a really quick stop. Watch your head. Tokyo Drift Ferry Edition. Guys, I really love this city. I gotta say, I love the things that everybody has done. It's really come together. A lot of people getting on and off that stop as well. All right. This looks like it's actually going to be fine painted, so I apologize for freaking out about the height. And I do like that they're not going right next to each other now. Yeah, JDP made a joke the other time for that last one that you had a base jump. It was a base jump ferry ride to get onto your boat. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're just gonna have a collision right there. No worries. Now it's a ferry train. Man, these boats are like they are ridiculous. Don't get in the way of one of these boats; they will take your ass out. Here we go again. Bam! Got it. I don't know. Maybe you just missed it. Hard to tell. Dex and his trams. Again, Dex, am I mispronouncing that? Are you you're a Shia, if I'm not mistaken? I keep on saying he, but I apologize if that is incorrect. Irrational is the girl. Okay. And lots of people waiting on that ferry dock. And they all just got taken out by the ferry. Telling you, man, these boats, they're crazy. Okay. So, what's next? Yeah, painted heptagon. One of the things I was saying earlier, and I don't know if this would be a smart move or not, but I was wondering if you might put an on ramp here, so that all this traffic that's having to go through this intersection and up and down could maybe utilize that. Oh, and then you have maybe you have the on ramp here, but maybe you also get an off ramp here, and I don't know. That's going a little bit out of your territory right there, but I could work with you on that if we did it right. Close to this off ramp here, you were saying? I think, you know, there's enough space between there. If we get it, at least to no closer to the right there, I think it would be all right. I mean, I'm not saying you need to do that, but you got so much traffic coming through this intersection, and you got a lot of this industrial traffic, and it seems to me this industrial traffic is going from your industry to your other industry and back. And while you do have the train, it just doesn't work as cleanly as if you just maybe use the freeway there. I don't know. I could be wrong though. Let's see. Let's take a look. Postal Service. None. Nada. Didn't even think about doing Postal Service. Look at all that coverage on over there. Apparently the government here has had a union, had a postal union, and they have been in negotiations for several years now, and they are at an impasse. It's the union's fault. Well, you still got to have a postal service to deliver your packages. How do you think I got my Lego set earlier today? It's amazing you don't have more traffic coming in and out of Pemmeridge Farms. Usually, when I used the DLC, man, there was just a crap ton of traffic coming in and out of everything. There it is. Yeah, this is Texas, boy. We don't like unions around here. Get your unions. Go take them back to California. Get all them fruit nuts over there. Wee! I speak American. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. To be clear, Painted Heptagon, I was stating less my personal stance on unions and more the state's stance on unions. I if I don't like to be too political in my streams. We're not here to be political, and I'm sure that I have different ideas than you guys, and I'm sure y'all have different ideas from each other. But if I do have a problem with unions, it is the abuse of power that union bosses have over the people that they're supposedly supposed to be helping. At least in this country, I don't know about other places, but there's some pretty abusive people in power and unions around the United States. So if I'm going to give criticism to unions, that would be it. And I do tend to be generally libertarian. I don't know if you know what that is in Germany, but the less government that we have, the better. The more government stays out of your way, the better, is the simplistic way of putting libertarianism. Let people do what they want, and really the only place that the government should get involved is either in defense of the nation or in interstate commerce. That's what our Constitution states. And government should not be really involved in healthcare. Healthcare would be a lot cheaper and a lot better if government wasn't involved at all. Government shouldn't be involved in a lot of the other things that it's involved in, because it just gums everything up. I'm not saying that the problems would all be just solved, but government doesn't make the problems better, generally speaking. Now, that is a very, again, simplistic way of putting things for me, because I can say that there are certain issues where I'm not libertarian. I'm very liberal. There are other issues that I'm very conservative, and so it just depends on the issue. When it comes to unions, that's just not something I'm big on one way or the other. I generally am okay with unions. I'm not okay with how unions are run in the country. Okay. Oh no, I am very involved in politics. I mean, to give you an idea, most of my time is spent doing a podcast. Now it's space related, but there's a lot of politics involved with that. And I do vote in every election that I am eligible to vote in. Socialist, environmentalist, even though it's hard, we are not going to start a discussion if you don't want. Well, I don't mind starting a discussion. I just I like to have it in the appropriate place and time, and I'm all about having a discussion with you, Painted, about it. Unfortunately, the problem in humans more than government. Humans being involved generally comes to. Well, you're not wrong there, but until aliens or our robot overlords start governing us, humans are the ones that are running the government. So it's kind of one and the same. The U.S. government is only worried about padding their own pockets. Whether the government or corporate, same thing in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I think the U.S. government, at least the way it's set up, generally speaking, is good. I think it's very resilient, and it's being tested quite a bit over the past 2 decades. But I think that the robustness of it is only because the government was set up so robustly in the beginning that it's been able to withstand all the crap that is being thrown at it for the past couple decades. Our national government is very, very much been infiltrated by corruption when it comes to money and representation. Our representation is more representative of the people who pay to get those people elected rather than the people who vote or not vote for those people to be elected. That is not opinion. That is just fact. It just is. And a perfect example of that is you take NASA. NASA is dedicated to going to the moon by 2024 with the Artemis program, right? And so the Artemis program is they're trying to hurry up and get all this stuff done. And so what do? They submit a budget amendment to Congress for $1.6 billion with a B, which for what they're asking for is actually not very much. And the senator from Alabama, among others, made it clear that the SLS, which was supposed to fly in 2017 and it won't fly at least until 2021, has been mired in mismanagement by Boeing, cost overruns over and over again, and then Boeing is now saying, well, in order to get it done by 2024, we're going to need even more money, even though the reason we needed more money before was because we were not managing it well. And the senator from Alabama is very well paid by Boeing and Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman and these other businesses that are there in Alabama. That's where all of the stuff is built. And, the Orion space capsule, the European Service Module, and the SLS are all probably going to be obsolete before they even fly. When you think SpaceX is coming out with the Starship and the Big Falcon rocket, and then you got Blue Origin coming out with New Shepard or New Glenn, and those two rocket systems will be fully reusable, or at least very much all reusable with just some refurbishment at most. The SLS is completely expendable. So to launch a SpaceX spaceship, or Starship is what they're calling it. To launch the SpaceX Starship is estimated to cost about $250 million on the high end per launch. This is based on the fact that they can amortize some of that development cost because it is reused. You go to the SLS and it costs somewhere between 1.5 and 2.5 billion with a B dollars per launch. Much more money, and while it is a more capable system, delta V wise, it can bring more weight into orbit. Because the Orion is so heavy and it has so little fuel for how much heavier it is than previous systems, the SLS cannot get the Orion to lunar orbit and return back to Earth. The Orion will have to be refueled in orbit of the moon in order to be able to return back to Earth, even with the SLS. And no other system can use it. I know I've been droning on for a long time, but this is a perfect example of the only reason that they're even worried about using the SLS or the Orion system at this point is because Congress has dictated that. And quite frankly, there are other better options that would be much more cost effective and much more likely to get men and women on the moon by 2024. And it's just one of many examples. Don't even get me started about healthcare. Don't even get me started about immigration. I don't think the roundabout is twisted. I don't know. It looks like it's got a bit of a kink there, but it looks pretty good to me. Uh, 13 decks, you might have a point with private versus government run. At least private run, you got a chance of being one of the people and doing your thing. I just don't think things should be privatized because they are not supposed to make profit in a direct way. Trying to get maximum profit is not always helpful. You're not wrong about that, Painted Heptagon. The problem is that what's worse than trying to make profit is getting people elected to put in loopholes that are hard to change once they're in place that maximize your profit at the expense of the taxpayers. I'd rather somebody try and make profit off of me directly than use the money from my taxes in order to do so. You have great points, both of you guys, and I think I'm going to leave the politics behind after this. But you both have good points, and I'm not saying that the not having government is perfect, but I think it is too corrupted at this point and needs to change. It is my opinion, absolutely. I'm not trying to state it as fact. The only thing I'll state as fact is that most of the politicians in our national government here in the United States are mostly acting on the people that are paying them and not the people that are voting for them or not. All good points, guys. All good points. Election reform and lobbyism. Well, they have full ability to alter this as they see fit. So I'll let Team One mess with the wall, the keys or whatever. All right, Paint It. Well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it, buddy. And sorry again about the flags, but that is now remedied. Is there anything else that I should be doing in the game besides telling everybody what I think about politics? I felt like I was preaching a little bit there, more than I want it to be. Okie dokie. All right, Scott, Painted, both of you guys, thanks for joining me, and I will talk to you guys later. I really appreciate y'all's involvement. It makes what I like. I'm much more prone to forget things without you guys helping me remember what you'd like me to do, and it also helps me make decisions when y'all are here. Yeah, and Scott, definitely, you need to feel better, buddy. Hopefully those steroids let you sleep, and hopefully the cough medicine helps you not cough. Oh, Dex, no unique building. What's up with that, man? Y'all got to start laying those things down. Man, look at that skyline. That's a cool looking skyline from this vantage point. We are starting round 9. This is the end of round 8. Well, as far as DLC goes, there's really only 2 left, I think. That would be the campus and the natural disasters. I think those are the only 2 left. Of those 2, campus is the one that interests me the most. But we can do both. Okay, so Dex, you got the campus, but not the disasters. Well, if Dex doesn't have disasters, I'll just do the one. He's adding so much, or yeah, Dex is adding so much to the to Team 2 that I would hate to exclude him for the sake of natural disasters, which if I add that in, I think we'd add that in at the end just to have fun with it before we say goodbye to our city. Jack, if you'll post that in the general team channel, make sure everybody knows that Campus DLC is now active. Oh, I definitely will, Dex. Don't you worry about that. We're gonna get that frame rate way up after we pretty much kill it. I'm gonna put a tidal wave. There's a mod that lets you up the magnitude to like 25 or something crazy. So we're gonna obliterate the city. The city is in for an ominous future. Yes, Ragnarok. That's what it is. Well, without the natural disasters DLC, you can't build the proper fortifications. See, the natural disasters DLC gives you options on how to protect your citizens. So if y'all add that, then you might actually have a chance to save some of your citizens. Otherwise, they are gonna die. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate you, Bo. Let them die, poor fools. Good night, Scott. Talk to you later. I really liked going over that new intersection there. That DDI. That was nice. Does it really? It's still working at 30 frames a second. Man, that stadium looks pretty cool there, doesn't it? Maybe you're right, Jack Daniels. I think it may be running a little bit smoother. Never did get that 50% garbage, did we? What are we talking about there? Oh, no. You're right. You are correct, sir. I was wanting him to do it when he was checking on the healthcare system, but he didn't. Yeah. Well, everybody keeps on plopping down everything. You know, it'd be a real challenge, and I don't know if we're up for it yet until we figure out a system that just makes everybody happy on how to play the game. So I don't think we're there yet. Is if we actually, instead of using infinite money, we maybe just use like a $1 million start mod. So we start off with $1 million, but then if it's not making, if we don't budget, then things will go south quickly. That'll keep people from going hog wild, because right now running a deficit in the city, and I think it's because of all the parks and shit that everybody's put in. Yeah, Jack, man, I ain't gonna brag, but I'm gonna brag, man. I really dig my highways. I love the way they look in this city. Like, it's not the only thing I like. I love how the downtown is. I love how the suburbs approach the downtown. I like how Team 2's not just a strip of nothing but high rises all the way through. That they have like their old town is lower rise, and they still have single housing on the other side of the road there. And then on the right there, they got the industry and the farm. It looks so right. There's something about it I like. Yeah, I could try it, man. Yeah, I could try it tonight. Holy crap! It's already 1 in the morning. I didn't realize. I'm not that tired. You'd think I'd be more tired at 1 in the morning. Yeah, but you usually stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning, don't you? Yeah, so it's more unusual for me to be up at this hour than for you, believe it or not. It was all right. Honestly, I wasn't looking too forward to it, and I got what I expected on that. Not that he didn't do a great job or anything, but it's just, I don't know. I was there to support him, not because I was super excited about that kind of a show, you know. But he was happy, and he had fun, so I'm glad about that. And the family and I, we did have a good meal together too, which was nice. And I think that area under the bridge is still being well underutilized. And that's cool. Just read your message about your kids in the school. Yeah, they basically just had him sing a worship song. And then mostly it was about the the little motions that they had them memorize. My poor kid, he was by the time that they had run it at 7, his medicine has gone out of his body, and so he's standing up there and he's kind of moving around. So all the other kids get in front of him. So I try and videotape him to do this thing, and all I see is mostly I see his little head peeking behind 3 little girls, and that's about it. Hey, 13 Dex, appreciate you coming on. Talk to you later, Bo. So I can show some nighttime shots when I do the final video at the end of this of whenever we finish up Discouver. But I think for the cinematics, I'm going to keep it daytime just to keep it consistent. And the idea that I have is, that I will intermix and every once in a while switch between the beginning and show the incremental change of the city over time, which is why I take the exact same cinematic every time. I don't know how well it'll turn out, but that's kind of the idea that I have. And that's that. All right, Jack, I think you're the last man standing. So, oh, hey, Painted Heptagon, you're back. I think you're back just in time for us to shut her down. Unless you just want to talk politics now. Everything's at 10% here. Let's see if I can. We'll let that run for a while. Actually, you can raise it to 12 usually without anybody complaining. I usually keep it at 11 though, just to be safe. Thirteen was the sweet spot. Let's see, just raising that everybody's taxes by 1%, and now we are solidly in the black. So I'm pretty sure 12 is the number, though. In my personal experience, that's the number. Let me put it that way. Yeah, Jack Daniels, I don't think just lowering the budget on the garbage is going to do anything for us. I think we're going to have to take matters a little bit more seriously into our own hands if we're going to make that work. Can't just stay at 100, can it? There we go, finally got it. Why is the power budget up so much? No, you're right. It was easier, but I don't think it's as. I think the effect was nothing. I think we're overserved garbage. We're overserved on our garbage uh, stuff, thingamajiggers. I might create a new cinematic based on our how the city looks now. Well, I talk to you guys. Oh no, they're complaining about taxes. Look at that. No, it's because they're supposed to be supposedly self sufficient, so they use less services, but they also they want less taxes. Woo! A little quick. I did see one spot that was not quite how it needed to be. That's the one right there. I should charge for that roller coaster ride. It was kind of fun, though. I enjoyed it. Too slow. Uh-oh. Something froze. That's not good. I think I might have broke it. I should have saved that. Frick. Oh, if I lose the cinematic, I'm done. I am done. Oh, Lord. Oh, jeez. I did not save that cinematic. That cinematic is not saved. I was still working on it, so I didn't think to save it. Eh. I put 60 frames per second instead of 30. Oh, Lord. Christopher, what did you do? That was looking like a pretty awesome cinematic too. I was really enjoying it. Oh God. I did save the game before the cinematic, so all of the work that I did is there except for the work that I did on the cinematic. And but basically I saved right before I did all the budget stuff. I think it's dead, Jim. All right, folks. Well, it was nice playing while we had it. Oy vey. Yeah, Jinx. Technically, I said it before you since there's a delay, so. Alright, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. And I will say good night and upload this, and I'll call it a day, and I'll maybe do a cinematic another day when I get the itch again. And I'm not deflated by the fact that I just lost it. Good night.